Hello. I know it's been a while since I spoke to you last, but I've been keeping pretty busy. I thought of you a few minutes ago, however, as I was on my way home, and felt I had to write. I had to attempt relating to you the feeling I've got just now. I was walking up Elmwood, taking both my time and perhaps a longer route to my apartment, and was reflecting intently on my day. I was thinking how it had been the kind of day when it seemed nothing exciting was going on or could possibly happen, yet a steady succession of favorable turns, chance beatings, and simple beauties combined to really make it feel special. It had been the kind of day that makes me feel like I'm a character in a film. Nothing too adventurous, maybe just something with a lot of dialogue and quirky character development. Do you ever have days like that? Do you ever kick along the street and just suddenly feel as if your entire situation is ideal? Like you've really just found your feet and hit your stride, you know? Today felt like that as soon as I opened the door. I stepped out onto the porch and was met with a gentle but persuasive breeze that immediately upheld my hesitant decision to grab a scarf. The light was soft, the sky slightly overcast but not threatening. Carried by the breeze was a subtle scent of dry leaves and autumnal blossoms. I stood for a moment, letting the fall fully envelop me. It's my favorite season, and though not always as long as I would wish, we do get beautiful ones here in Buffalo. As I set out for the cafe and, possibly I thought, the bookstore, I couldn't help but let my mind drift to apples and corn stalks, the smell of pumpkin, and the taste of cinnamon in coffee. I heard a pleasant, crunching, rustling sound, and looking down at the small pile of leaves I had kicked through, experienced a moment of grade school poetics, thinking, all of my favorite colors are under the soles of my shoes. Anyways, shortly after I left my place, I bumped into Marie. Rather, she must have spotted me and, coming up from behind, linked her arm through mine by way of greeting. We chatted for a few minutes about the leaves under our shoes and about how her parents were on her case to get a real job, seeing as she had a perfectly good college degree, at home somewhere in a drawer. The problem is, she's perfectly content selling people trinkets and keepsakes out of the gift shop up the street, humming along to the radio and dreaming about the Paris she reads about in old books when there are no customers.
Speaking of Paris, do you know how to say book in French?
Livre.
And how about leaf?
I don't think so.
Boy, how about red leaf?
She has been insistent on teaching me French for some time, quizzing me on vocabulary each time we meet.
Can you say walk?
I remember walk being kind of long. Is it vers la promenade?
Well, not quite. That means to take a walk. Promenade just means to walk, like what we're doing right now.
Oh. Well, what other kinds of walking are there?
Before she went off to work, I asked Marie if I could take some film of her for a little project I'm working on. She agreed, and I shot her for 5 or 6 seconds. She asked what my project was, to which I replied that I didn't know. She thought I was being cryptic, but really I don't know what I'm going to do with what I shoot. I've been taking a few seconds footage of who or whatever I encounter that I like, or find curious, or intriguing, or beautiful.
Good.
Really just anything that interests me. Maybe I'll make a music video with it. But what kind of music should I make? So I eventually made it to the cafe and hung around for a little while. However, the TV was on a little bit loud and the election talk started to bring me down, so I skipped out earlier than I usually would have. I thought of going to the drugstore, as I'm almost out of allergy medication and have to figure out something new. I don't have health insurance at the moment, as I'm too old for my parents' coverage and my entry-level job doesn't offer benefits, so I have to find a non-prescription alternative. My mother had cut some coupons out for me about a week ago and told me they were for over-the-counter medications. I told her that this didn't make any sense. I knew she was referring to the small-time drugs that one can simply walk in, pick up off the shelf, and buy, but I asked her why these were called over-the-counter. You don't get them over-the-counter, you get them off the shelf, adjacent to the counter at best. Prescription drugs come over the counter when the pharmacist hands them to you. Then all of your money also goes over the counter and into the pharmacist's hand. So why are shelf meds called over the counter? She didn't know. I ultimately decided against going to the drugstore as my seasonal allergies seem to be out of season just now anyways. I instead opted for a bike ride around the park. Initially the wind was a little bit chilly, but once I got going I warmed up and it was a perfect ride. The park was in rare form today, beautiful in a way it only is a few short weeks out of the year. Don't get me wrong, the park is always beautiful, it's just that I find it particularly affecting this time of year. I've been trying to enjoy the park more recently. I've always liked it, but lately I've tried to appreciate the history of it more. I've read about how it and other parks in Buffalo are all connected by parkways and traffic circles, most of which I've traveled countless times. Olmsted designed them this way specifically for Buffalo, which in his time he proclaimed the best planned city in the United States, if not the world. Buffalo was known as the city of trees, for God's sake. It must have been quite a sight. Look into it if you have time, it's pretty fascinating. Anyways, I rode around most of the perimeter of the park before slipping into it at a small gravel pathway off Delaware Avenue. I rode a few paths in the south end before sitting down for a bit to rest and collect myself. I shot a few frames of film and thought for a while about what I wanted my little project to be. At this point, I felt very in touch with everything around me, very much a creature of the park and of the city. I often feel this way, but I sensed that the moment was one of exceptional poignancy, a real, if fleeting, instance of rapport. So I indulged myself and sat in my quiet reverie. A short time later, my friend Callie called and asked what I was doing. When I told her I was thinking of going home for dinner, she told me I should come over and eat with her. She and I only just came to be friends recently, but the few times we've gotten together since have been occasions of long and satisfying conversation. I quickly found that she sees things and considers them similarly to the way I do, and soon found myself looking forward to sharing our various passions and vexations, worldly musings and trivialities. I also began to realize how troubled she is. Not like mental or anything, just sad. She's had a rough year or so, for reasons better discovered through her than I. When I arrived at her place around 7, she seemed pretty buoyant. She apologized for not having a new bottle of wine, but offered me a glass from one she had opened the night before. She then resumed cooking, carefully dicing an onion, while I sat at the table, watching her and considering how best to break the quiet that had settled. I was about to ask if I could help her when she turned from the cutting board, tears in her eyes, and dug in her pocket for a tissue. In response to the concern I felt writing itself across my brow, she quickly said that onions always make her cry. I wasn't sure whether to believe her. I wasn't sure if this was a convenient compromise. But then again, onions always make me cry too. As we ate and later sat in her living room, our conversation resumed as per its more typical scope and facility. Only at one point did she seem to grow a bit distracted and melancholy. I got the feeling that she had something on her mind and was debating whether to bring it up. She seemed, however, to reach a decision, as she quickly smiled and, sternly changing the subject, asked if I was working on anything. I told her about my project, and, at my insistence, she showed me a painting she was working on. Soon the evening grew late and we began our goodbyes. As I rose to leave, feeling pretty good about the night, she pulled me into a tight hug. I reciprocated, feeling like I should say something, but before I could make up my mind on what, she released me and said very simply, "Thank you. You're a good friend." And so I found myself walking up Elmwood, hands in my pockets, feeling content? No, more than that. Just feeling overwhelmingly in awe of the way everything felt as if it were in agreement. Sure, there are things that aren't perfect, and there are problems, but right now I feel like it all fits, and it's all beautiful. I'm finally starting to feel tired now, but I probably won't go to bed for a while yet. I think I may boil some water and pour it over a few mint leaves and debrief myself a bit. I'm really looking forward to the next few weeks. My project is going well, I have a lot of plans made, and these are usually the best weeks of fall. So enjoy yourself, get outside a few more times before the snow flies, and if you see me around somewhere, come over for a chat. I might film you for my project.